by Dr. Leahcim Semaj on the man and his mental health. The Bible does not explicitly speak on the topic of mental health. However, it does have a lot to say about heart and mind, spiritual brokenness, and the condition of the soul. Mental health is important as it affects the whole being. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The world is in a fallen state. Sin separates us from God, corrupting creation as it groans for freedom from its state of decay. The fall of mankind has had physical ramifications for the body and spiritual effects on the soul. Mental health is not guaranteed any more than physical health is. Unlike the body, the mind can get sick or injured. We like to extend our special welcome to our presenter, Dr. Leahcim Semaj, also to Pastor Reverend Nigel Martin, and to Brother Aubrey Thomas, the parish coordinator for St. James, who will lead us in devotion. The Bible has many passages that speak indirectly of mental health. The Lord is the one who renews the mind and restores the soul. God has given his children a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. We have Jesus' promise of peace and rest. And of course, there are many spiritual injunctions to fear not and to bring out our anxieties to God. I now hand over to our brother, Aubrey Thomas, the parish coordinator for St. James.
Good evening, everyone. We seem to be having a little challenge with our brother Aubrey. And so this evening, I invite us to just bow our heads as we offer prayer at this time. Father, we just want to thank you for your goodness, and we thank you for your continued mercies and your continued grace. Lord, as we have gathered this evening to share in this fashion, we ask, Lord, that you will guide our discussion this evening. We present our presenter before you, Dr. Semaj, and we pray, God, that as he shares this evening, that indeed we will learn from that which is shared this evening, and that, God, will be able to live better lives and to understand this whole concept of having good mental health. And so, Father God, we just commit this time to you even now. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen and amen.
Amen.
My brothers and sisters who are on the platform this evening, I want to say a special good evening to you. I want to especially say good evening to our presenter, Dr. Semaj, who has taken the time to be with us, and to all the ministers who are on the platform, and all our men especially that are on the platform this evening, both on Zoom and on YouTube. I want to say a special welcome to you. And as we engage in our discussion this evening, I trust that we will have a very good time together discussing this matter. I also want to say a special welcome to our administrative bishop, Dr. Roy Notice, who continues to give strong support to the men of the New Testament Church of God, and is always a part of anything that we do as a department. And we want to say thanks to him for his continued support of this ministry. Mine is a pleasure this evening to introduce our speaker to you. Now, Dr. Leahcim Semaj is a motivational and keynote speaker creative thinker and problem solver who facilitates the transformation to a higher level of functioning, individuals, teams, companies, and communities. Dr. Semaj is also a facilitator for change management, leadership training, strategic planning retreats, organizational restructuring, cultural and work or values alignment, work or life balance, corporate coaching, and demystifying complex concepts that impact people's lives. He has offered his services to various sectors to include energy, hospitality, finance, gaming, telecommunications, security, agriculture, education, and government, to name a few. Our esteemed presenter has had the opportunity of serving companies such as Pfizer Drug, Johnson & Johnson, McDonald's, L'Oreal Cosmetic, IBM, Royal Dutch Shell, and Supreme Ventures, to name a few. He also serves in the field of education through research and teaching at the Cornell University and Rutgers University, where he capped the Distinguished Teacher Award. He also serves with the University of the West Indies and the College of Agriculture. Dr. Semaj is a distinguished alumnus of the premier boys' school in Jamaica, Kingston College, where his early foundations were developed. He's a graduate of City College of New York, where he graduated cum laude. He also pursued graduate studies at Rutgers University, where he earned a Master of Science and a PhD, respectively. Dr. Semaj also did postdoctoral studies at Princeton in educational testing service. No matter where he has facilitated discussions, the greatest of his achievements that he believes really matters is the opportunity he had to be a partner in the active parenting of 6 successful children. My brothers and sisters who have joined us this evening, please welcome to our platform this evening our presenter for tonight, Dr. Leahcim Semaj.
Indeed, my pleasure to be here. Let me just take a second to share my screen so that we can make everything visible. Could I get a confirmation that my screen is being shared?
Yes, Dr. Semaj, we're
great. Whenever I'm invited to do something like this, to talk about men, I really feel a responsibility, especially here of mental health, because it is something that we really don't spend enough time dealing with this. So it's almost it's a privilege and almost a guilty privilege. I feel it's necessary that this be done. Now, when we establish in the introduction, we talk about my major achievement. I really feel this is very special. And it really came home to me when I said, I'm going to make this part of my identification, because it's not about how many degrees I earned and where I taught and the research I did. The single most important work, is socializing the next generation. What did you do for the next generation? Now, when I was the guest speaker in December last year for my daughter Naita, when she was sworn in as a Supreme Court judge for New York, what is so special about this? That this is a child who was expelled from 2 schools in Jamaica because she don't take chat from nobody. But I never gave up on her. And then when I looked down the line, I saw that my other daughter was a master teacher in New York, and her focus on decolonizing education. My 3rd daughter is a lecturer at University of the West Indies. Her PhD is in literature and popular culture. My son's entrepreneurs and involved in farming and multimedia. And the last daughter is now completing her law degree. I feel very special. And I say this to encourage men who tell you it is so good and special when you actively take part in your children's lives. I'll be telling you more about this. I've divided the discussion, the presentation, into chapters so that we will flow through them. The first is the foundation. I should be hearing some sound, but I guess with this kind of connection here, we're not. So I'll have to make some adjustment later on. Now, we have two basic needs for work and intimacy, meaningful, rewarding work and sustained and reciprocated intimacy. If both of those needs are satisfied, you don't even need water to drink. You really feel so good about yourself, huh? So that the development process to go from 0 all the way to plus 10 in both areas, optimal development. That's what we're working on as human beings. Now, how does this go? You start off as children, boys and girls just try to figure out how the world works. The next stage is adolescent. Boys become males, girls become female, meaning that you're now defined by your external genitalia and your internal hormone secretions. The next stage is called adult. It is not automatic, meaning that males become men, female become women. How you make that transition is via this thing called work. If you're not working, you can't justly call yourself an adult. Once you have mastered work, you're not ready for the next level of adult functioning. That's called intimacy. So you master these two. Now, just think about it. If somebody comes into your life and they bring absolutely nothing, anything times 0 is 0. What if you are a half a man and then she's a half a woman? Half times half is quarter. You better off being by yourself. But a whole man and a whole woman, huh? The next level is called parenting. The highest level of our functioning, folks. Now you understand how the problem that many face. Bypass work and bypass intimacy and try to become parents. That sets the problem that many of us are struggling with. It is very unfortunate that the words that usher at least, I would say, 70% of the children in Jamaica is a woman saying to a man, I miss my period, you know. And the man said, where tell me that for? And then the argument starts because there was no a priori discussion about family life and children and so on. Why is it that we don't have many fathers' name on birth certificate? Simple, you can't put big up on birth certificate. Should have mom as bigger or tall man or Indian or so. Should have no name. So that the problems we face, gentlemen, stems from right here. Now, the road ahead is quite rough if young people are denied access to the means of production. This girl leaves school with no marketable skill. What happens? She uses her reproductive capacity. You understand how that works. But something that was intended to be productive can easily become reproductive. And then pregnancy. And the dilemma starts right there. There was a time in Jamaica when the dominant family form was mother and father and child. Not anymore. Black woman and child. This term baby mother and baby father are terms I find very disturbing. On the other side, this boy here kickball every day because a bad man never class. So he leaves school with no marketable skills. He uses destructive means. Sex and violence are two sides of the same coin. There was a time in Jamaica, you know, folks, we're talking about student athletes. Notice the word student comes first. Back from the 70s and even the late 60s, a lot of persons got their professional certification by way of sports, track scholarship, football scholarship. No, many scholarships go begging because we have almost semi-professional people in high schools playing sports. So he leaves schools with no marketable skill. First, he becomes a parasite. One big man he can do for me. Then as he gets bigger and stronger, he becomes a predator. That's what we're faced with. That's how we are as a country. Interestingly, there was a prediction made, by The Economist magazine as far back as September 1996, where it said that the biggest problem that the Western world will face with males, young, uneducated, unmarried, unemployed, unemployable. They call it right. They're talking about us now, Jamaica. Professor Scott Galloway has pointed out that beyond Jamaica now, hungry young men without role models or prospects are the most dangerous people in the world. Hungry young men without role models and prospects, the most dangerous persons in the world. So this is the background. This is the foundation that we're living with now. Huh? Aggression and violence is a part of male reality in almost every society. Men are the ones involved in intergroup aggression. Wars are biosocial product of men to gain status, to gain resources, protect their family, however they define that. Male mobilize themselves as armies, as criminal gangs, as bands of thugs. That's what happens. Men commit most homicides. On average, 20 times more frequently than women do. Men. 90% of the victims of homicide are men. 90% of the crimes committed are by men. 90% of serial killers are men. So, I have a little problem, when we this issue with violence against women, but there is hardcore violence against men. Do we accept that as being normative behavior? In many animal species, including primates, males have a biological role in being the guardian of the territory. So that's sort of built-in role to be protector. The sociobiology identify men as being more aggressive than women. All of these things are inherited from our evolutionary past. It gains a competitive advantage. And believe it or not, women are still attracted to powerful men. Whether the power is demonstrated in money, business, sports, politics, or crime. So men are rewarded for violent behavior. The challenge to society, can we transmute this energy to extend males' focus on education, for them to take on more pro-social activities, into competitive activities, draw them into the security forces so that they can use this to protect the nation? All right, what about some high-risk entertainment activities so they can contain this energy or be punished by it? I came across a study some years ago about some men in this country who were being trained to become suicide bombers. But a man explained to them, listen, suicide bomber, yes, in our culture, that if you die a suicide bomber, you get 72 virgins. But he says, but if you become a businessman, a successful businessman, you will get live women. A lot of the would-be suicide bombers change their career path. All right? So we can transform this behavior. The socialization and the education of males toward pro-social behavior is probably one of our single most important challenge. How are we doing? How are we doing? The foundation for the problem is set early. It is said that the total cost of crime in Jamaica is about $12.4 billion, about almost 4% of the country's GDP. If we could reduce this, we could form this and transfer it to our GDP on the positive side, if we could just reduce the male violence. So this is at the cornerstone of the problem. The foundation. Now, chapter 2, fathering, parenting, socialization. We are the product of whatever fathering we experience, whatever parenting we experience, and whatever socialization we experience. We are also actively, as men, involved in these things. How are we doing? Did we set the agenda? Are we setting the foundation? Active fathering is the best vaccination and antidote against attraction to gangs. It's interesting, you know, folks, when you look at the research, tells us about all the young men who are involved in gangs. One of the most common elements is the absence of an active father, so that the gang leader becomes their father. Interestingly, religious cults oftentimes show a similar thing. Women are attracted to religious cults because of that dominant male figure, substitute for the absence of that father figure. We see the signs. Now, I talk about something called the law of parenting. The law of parenting. You may ask, what's that? You weren't aware there was such a law? Well, there is such a law. A child is born. Once you are so privileged to have a child, it means that you have been entrusted by the universe to be one of the vehicles through which the miracle of creation continues. Your minimum responsibility is for the food, the protection, the clothing, the shelter, the education, and the positive socialization of that child for at least the next 18 years. Irrespective of breakup, separation, divorce, or death. If you look in the book of Genesis, you see that God made man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to dress and keep it. Huh? That sounds like clearly labor, hard work. As you go further down the chapter, you see, then man was asked to name all the animals. Again, work, but now intellectual work at a higher level. It is only after those two, as you go further down the chapter, then God provided him with a woman. Work before intimacy. Irrespective of breakup, separation, divorce, or death. That's the responsibility that you have accepted. Parenting, as I said earlier, is the single most important human activity as we continue the law of parenting. The male urge to procreate is stronger than the desire to parent. For this reason, parenting in human males is a learned social behavior. We can come back to that in the discussion. And I can show you many examples of when it is not properly learned, what can be done. Women need to raise the bar and initiate serious discussion before allowing men access to their womb. Again, we can discuss this later on as part of the law of parenting. The bar for entry, no pun intended, is much too low. Much too low. Chapter 3 of the law of parenting. Society needs to display and reinforce pro-social behaviors for family life, especially male parenting. Socializing the next generation is one of the most important human activities. When parenting, especially fathering, fails, the overburdened teacher and the school system are called upon to pick up the slack. We just heard this week about another killing in a school. Again, male behavior over a gathering. When the school system fails, the final step then becomes the criminal justice system. When universal laws are violated, punishment is not always swift, but it is certain. Sometimes the entire community and even the nation is punished. Are we there yet? I sense that there's a punishment afoot in Jamaica in terms of the failure of responding positively to the law of parenting. It all comes down to that. Parenting, especially fathering. A man has a right to know who his children are. Children have a right to know who their father is. That bond is so critical, is so important. So many of the problems that we now face at the level of mental health can be traced back to the foundation that we just discussed and the issues that arise. How do we raise our boys and our girls? Just think about it, huh? In many households in Jamaica, why I use underwear as a symbol here, by the time your girl is 5 or 6 or sometime even earlier, a mother gives her a little pail and takes her and teach her how to wash her underwear. And she starts learning to care for herself. There are mothers who are still washing their son's underwear. He's not 5 or 6, he's 26. He's 36. Still living at home, still dependent on his mother. In many households, your daughter is 7 and your son is 9. You call the daughter in to set the table first so the son can stay outside and play some more. Your daughter is 17. Your son is 15. He can come in whenever he feels like coming in, go everywhere when he wants to go. But your daughter is not able to because we protect her. We teach her responsible behavior. In many ways, we have underdeveloped our boys. The most important degree that we'll ever earn is what I call your DT degree, your dining table degree. What were the messages? What were the lessons we learned around the dining table? But then you're going to say, but Dr. Semaj, who have dining table anymore? You know, folks, I spent my first 13, 14 years below Torrington Bridge. Most of my life was in one room. My mother said sometimes the room was so small that if you want to change your mind, you have to go outside and change your mind and then come back in. Eventually, we were able to have 2 rooms, but I can remember as early as possible, there was a little table in the corner. And my mother would say, if it's 1 banana we're having, we must set the table and eat like decent people. To this day, it's a ritual in my household, setting the table, and we eat meals together, especially dinner, especially on weekends, especially Sunday, where that bonding takes place, the foundation of mental health. There's a conspiracy against males, folks. How do I describe this? It begins when 1 egg is released each month from a woman, and it unites with one of millions of sperm produced by a man, have to compete for that 1 egg. Only the fittest of the fittest survive. Between conception and birth, note the time I'm saying, between conception and birth, the vast majority of reproductive waste is largely male, meaning that miscarriages, stillborn, is largely male. This struggle continues all the way through death. The fragility of men. We started out as mother and father and extended family. That's what the Jamaican society was, huh? Then we moved to mother and father, nuclear family. Then we started talking about my mother who fathered me. This was just a name of a book, folks. It never really happened, but it has now become that. Mothers taking on all the roles. Now mothers have exited because, look, they have their own life to live. How many children are living via remittance? Who is socializing our children? When I say the book, My Mother Who Fathered Me, is just a topic that a lot of people talk about this book, but they have never ever read it. It was a catchy title. In this book, 58% of the children lived with both parents, both natural parents, 13% with mother and stepfather, 4% with father and stepmother. Only 19% of children then had mother only, and 5% father only since 1957. We wish we get back to these glory days. So that, no, we never had this. It is now we have that situation of my mother who fathered me. It is now, not then. Something has gone woefully wrong with our society. The structures of our society are all biased against men. This is not just idle chat. There are more high school places for girls than there are for boys. So naturally, more girls will be placed than boys. One of the first person to document this was Peter Espute, as far back as 2007. How our school system is set up. Boys often sit at the back of this class. The students in the front get more attention, usually from their female teacher. So that the boys being attracted to education is at a struggle. We have 7 all-boys high school in Jamaica. We have 14 all-girl high schools. You realize that? And the co-ed schools are largely female. So just in terms of the proportions of males and female moving on to secondary, not to mention tertiary education, the average boys' school is smaller than the average girls' school. Co-ed schools admit more girls than boys. So therefore, more girls will actually get through high school than boys to move further up in the system. The age at which we make that selection to move into secondary school, somewhere between 10 and 12. But guess what? At this stage, girls are psychologically more developed than boys. So just in straight competition for high school place, girls have a big and unfair advantage at this time when we make those choices. Big advantage. The data globally tells us some very interesting thing. For every 100 girls who are suspended from school, 250 boys are. For every 100 girls expelled from schools, 330 boys are. For every 100 girls in special education, there are 217 boys. For every 100 girls diagnosed with learning disability, there are 276 boys. For every 100 girls diagnosed as emotional disturbed, there are 324 boys. For every 100 girls diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, there are 400 boys. You see the foundation that we're building on in terms of what happens to men and men's mental health? The foundation is set early and it doesn't look good. We have a lot of work to do. As we can see globally now at primary and secondary school, girls are outperforming the boys, and this is worldwide. Boys are more likely to held back and drop out, while girls stay in school longer. Females have vaulted the university gap, and it's globally now. 70% of graduates. University of West Indies, about 80% of the student body are female. American colleges and university now enroll roughly 6 women for every 4 men. This is the largest female-male gender gap in the history of higher education, and it's getting wider. Last year, US colleges enrolled 1.5 million fewer students than 5 years ago. This means that significantly fewer men are moving up into higher education. 60% of BA degrees are now going to women. 70% of female population in universities. But administrators are getting nervous because girls don't want to go to schools that don't have boys, because that's ultimately the last place you go to meet a husband. In Jamaica, our educational policy after slavery was designed to protect the plantation labor supply. Just take a look at it. Trelawney, St. Thomas, Vere, Clarendon were all the banana areas. How many high schools were set up in these places? There were none or very few secondary options, because the idea is that the boys were now going to just go work in the banana plantation and cut cane. So that was set. Who would cut the cane or weed the bananas? It is not so much the system favors girl, is that it disadvantages boys. Henceforth, the foundation for the mental health issues that we're talking about. We don't fix things by just looking at the fruits, look at the end product. We look at the entire thing from whence it came, so that we can make sense of it. The Roman Catholics have only one boy high school, but they built 5 high schools for girls. Ever thought of that? None of the single-sex schools were established by the government. Successive government had no interest. Give thanks to Bishop Gibson that built Kingston College. I wish in the question and answer we can tell you something about KC, folks. People don't understand, feel that KC boys won't let them special. Yes, we are special. Kingston College was the only school set up for what it was set up. It was set up to give poor people, children, access to higher education. All the other established schools dating back 200 years and more were set up to benefit the planter class and would admit 1 or 2 poor people children each year. KC came out straight up for that purpose, to give poor people children access to education. Give thanks, I'm one. That's how it was done. Boys and girls of the same age are put in the same class. That means that the girls will nearly always do better. Potential negative psychological impact on the boys, because in the co-ed schools, that's how things are set up. I'm one of those who believe that, if we had single-sex high school, that each gender could progress at their own optimal space. And the distraction that some boys never recover from would be separated. But that's a whole nother discussion. Do you understand that men smoke more cigarettes, thus have more lung cancer than women? Men drink more liquor, so more cirrhosis of the liver. Men take more drugs than women, hence death. Men have a higher death rate in all 15 leading causes of death, from accident to AIDS. The only area where women outrank men in terms of death is death in childbirth. And guess what? I'm one of those who believe that if men could bear children, they would have a higher death rate. Anything that kills people kills more men than women. That's just the nature of the being. That's why when I say that there is a conspiracy against the life of men, from conception, men eat more unhealthy, just have more cardiovascular disease. Men expose themselves to more on-the-job disability. 94% of all fatalities at work, men. 94%. Men drive faster, drive more reckless, are killed and kill more people on the road than women. Men possess more firearms and more deadly weapons, and thus take each other's life much more than women do. Men have more stress and tension building their competitive personalities. And we see the transition now into mental health. The life of men. The life of men. So that we ignore these things to our peril. Do you realize how many institutions we have in Jamaica that are there for women? How many things we have for men and boys? How many? We have work to do. As parents, as fathers, we have serious work to do. That's why I'm so happy that we have a discussion now about the mental health of men. Women complain of a shortage of marriageable men, and you're right. Given what I've just described, who are the men? More men at the bottom of the economic ladder than women, and more men involved in crime, more men in prisons. You know, this picture was taken at the annual meeting of single, straight, emotionally stable, intelligent men looking for long-term commitment. Notice how packed the room is? We have a problem. So where are we today? Teenagers have girlfriends. Contraception failure results in baby mother. Big man make commitment and have wife. Without any apologies, that's how I see the world. When I see a big man tell me, but boy, this is my girlfriend, you know, you gotta be kidding. But my baby mother. What? Your baby mother? What that mean? Why is she not your wife? Why have you not made a commitment? Now, this may sound controversial, and I'd love for us in the discussion to debate this. Gentlemen, the single most important economic and mental health decision you will ever make is the person you marry. This analysis has been described partially by a number of eminent scholars, just the first part, as the single most important economic decision one will ever make is the person you marry. But I have come to realize it's both economic health and mental health. You choose a partner, you choose the wrong partner. Economics is shattered. Marriage builds wealth. Divorce destroys wealth. Marriage builds wealth. I see. What about St. George's and North Street? Again, folks, remember that St. George's was a part of the Catholic Church by the Jesuits dated way back. But we give thanks for the Jesuits because Bishop Gibson was able to bring across the street and made it possible for the rest of us. I really hope that we go back and take a look at this. The single most important decision, economically, economic health, mental health, economic health. You're in a relationship and both of you are not going in the same direction. Huh? You're in a relationship and it's not working. The mental health implications. Do you understand that one of the predictions that I made and was supported by the data that we saw 2 years ago, that during the lockdown and the pandemic, there'll be a significant increase in domestic violence? Why is that? You are locked up in a house with somebody who one of you can't stand the other. Normally when there's an argument, somebody just walk out and say, "I soon come back, I go on a road." But if you can't go a road, then you're stuck there. And anyway it maga, it pop. So I'd love for us to come back and take a look at this. The single most important economic health and mental health decision you will ever make is the person you marry. This is an addendum to that last slide. You may want a partner who is eye candy, but what you really need is a partner who is soul food. Not eye candy. Soul food. The foundation for not just economic health, but mental health. That's why we are in the situation we are. Now, what's this thing called mental health? Your general state of well-being and state of mind, critical to your existence. Something that disrupts your mental state and interrupts how you feel, how you think, how you communicate, how you behave. This is what mental health is all about. Vital, important, complex, affect us in everyday life, influenced by many factors. It is linked to your physical health, to every part of you. Mental health is not a sign of weakness. It is not something to be ashamed about. It's not just all in your mind, it is real. You don't just look at this when it gets broken. It's something that you have to actively maintain. That's what mental health is. In the coronavirus now and in the lockdown, whoa, all kinds of other things that triggered it. The health anxiety, fear for your loved ones, decreased job security, the loneliness, the quarantines, all of these things further impacted mental illness. Huh? Then we start seeing some gender differences now. 4 times as many men die from suicide compared to women. That's the ultimate end product of a mental problem. Twice as many men than girls are diagnosed with ADHD during childhood. But we gave you those figures already. 1 in 5 men will develop alcohol dependence. Men with bipolar disorders are more likely to abuse drugs. Boys are 4 times more likely than girls to be diagnosed with autism. And white men over 85, can you imagine, have the highest suicide rates of any demographics in the United States. 85? We have some startling statistics, but we don't hear about these things. Depression and eating disorder. Suicide ideation and attempts. These are some of the things associated with girls. Boys, higher prevalence of conduct disorder, more high-risk behavior, more likely to commit suicide. Please take a note of this. Girls have more suicide ideation and attempts. Boys, more likely to commit suicide. Women, depressive and anxiety disorder. Suicide, note it, attempt. Antenatal and postnatal depression. But men, death by suicide. Externalizing disorder and substance abuse. So notice both girls and women, suicide ideation and attempts, more. But men, more suicide. You know how this works? The suicide attempt usually is a call out for help. I need help. But the method used by girls and women largely to do with taking tablets, slitting off wrist, things that take a while to kick in. And oftentimes they make a phone call and call their relatives and friends to tell them what they have done so that they can be saved. But guess what? The most common method for men to attempt suicide, put a gun to their head, a rope around the neck, or jump from a tall building. So the possibility of success is much greater. So more women attempt suicide, more men are successful at suicide. would you agree that suicide is the ultimate mental breakdown? And oftentimes, since that homicide, 90% of homicide is by men. So you understand. Sometimes they say men, you know, some of the things that men do on the road or in life is just a form of suicide. Depression. When you look at globally, more men suffer depression. Male depression goes undiagnosed. A man is depressed and we call it, boy, I'm tired, I'm irritable, I'm just not really interested in the work. Huh? But depression is one step away from taking one's life. Anxiety disorders, panic disorders, agoraphobia. You know, 2 weeks ago, I actually spoke to a gentleman in Jamaica who pointed out that he had to change career because of anxiety disorder. And it's really maybe why he opened up to me and shared it with me. Because, you know, I'm a psychologist. And because he learned how to fly and he started flying planes. But because of anxiety disorder, that would just take him at any time. And that couldn't happen when you're up in the air flying a plane. So he had to give up that career. Bipolar disorder. Psychosis and schizophrenia more significantly impact men. Eating disorder. Interesting, you know, the eating disorder. Whereas the whole issue of males account for 10% of anorexia and bulimia, 30%, 25% of those binge eating, men with eating is less likely to seek professional help. In any situation where we describe problems of health, physical to mental, men are less likely to seek help. One of the big contrasts I like to give is the difference in the survival rate of breast cancer versus prostate cancer. A lot of breast cancer is diagnosed early enough for it to be cured. But more often than not, when prostate cancer is diagnosed, it's stage 4, because most men will not get tested. A lot of men are very anxious about the digital rectal exam. But my advice to men, listen, gentlemen, if you have a male doctor and you're being subject to a digital rectal exam, just make sure that clearly he doesn't have both hands on your shoulder. If both hands are on your shoulder, you have a little problem. You shouldn't have both hands on your shoulder. That's all you need to be careful about. But it's the best method to diagnose and to make sure that you save your life. Men are less likely than women to seek help for depression, for substance abuse, for stress relief help. Due to what? Social norms, reluctance to talk, downplaying the symptoms. Men don't ask for help. Men don't reach out and talk to somebody. You know, I tell, a lot of my work is in companies. I tell managers, when you see a man sort of hanging around your door and say, boss, I can ask you something, I want to talk to you about something, make the time to talk to him, because you don't know how long it took him to get the courage to come ask you something or tell you something. Whenever a man calls me, much of my work is with companies. I see very few patients. That's not really what I do. But when a man calls me and says he needs help, I make time for him, because I know it took him probably 6 months to come to the reality that I need help. I need to call somebody. That's where we are with this. The highest suicide rate in the world. Let's go back to that. Men. Once that we're finding out, folks, that males' mental health data is suggested that it's connected with low levels of testosterone. Low level of testosterone correlates with depression, stress, and mood swing, especially as men get older. So that's one of the reasons that I really promote exercise and weight training, because you lose testosterone over time as you lose muscle mass. So that's something to think about. We are now seeing a connection between testosterone level and depression, stress, and mood swing. Very important. Only 1 in 4 men feel able to talk to friends and families when they're feeling stressed. Again, can we talk? 1 in 4. So we have men, the walking wounded, holding it in. There are 5 struggles that it suggests that almost every man faces. 1 is loneliness. Many of us never expect to be lonely. The fact that you're married, hoping a spouse will be able to be your lifelong companion and save you from loneliness. A lot of men are lonely. Living with self-doubt, not sure of themselves, lack of direction, lack of respect, and sexual temptation. All the temptation around, and even more so in our society, our sexualized society. Constant temptation, and so many men haven't learned how to get thee behind me, Satan, how to walk away, how to avoid it. But she pushed them a face, doc. No, boss. You're a big man. Every men struggle with these things unless they learn how. Even in the church. Even in the church. I can tell you stories about pastors that don't make it to the press. The 5 main warning signs of mental illness: excessive paranoia, worrying, sad, irritable, change of mood, social withdrawal, dramatic change in your sleeping or eating habit. If you see these symptoms, you know you need to ask for help. If you see this in a man close to you, you know that he needs help. Huh? Men resist talking about their mental health. It's a very interesting book. Interesting article that came out very recently. There's some practical, financial, and personal reasons why some men don't talk about their mental problems. So that, you know, I see somebody here need to build some muscles. And we're going to get down to that. We're going to talk about that. Exercise, ooh. That's one of the biggest issues. Men don't like to talk. Yeah? We need to have context for this. And folks, I mean, those of you who may know my history. When I first started the Night Doctor show back in 1989, from 1 in the morning to 5, that was the idea, you know, giving people a safe space in the middle of the night. You could take up your phone, turn on your radio. Some of you remember I had a show called Man Talk on television on a Sunday night. And I had a falling out with the station because of how they wanted to do the show and all of that. And they turned the show into a farce. How can you have a show called Man Talk hosted by a woman? Could you have a show called Woman Talk hosted by a man? People would burn down the place. How many opportunities, how many contexts do we have for encouraging men to talk? And this book that just came out by Rob Whitley gives some of the practical reasons why some men literally hold back and are not able to deal with these things openly, right? Not many competent and helpful people are willing and able to empathically listen to men with their mental health issue. Who are you going to go to? Where? What are the contexts? If you notice, when I had the show called Man Talk, when I built the set, I proposed the set, the station was upset. They wanted a regular set where, you're sitting on a couch and you guest. I said, no, no, no. Man, going to come and stomp on couch to talk to man. I want a set as a bar. Most bartenders, they're the closest thing to the kind of mental health help that some men get. Whether male or female bartender, people go to the bar and sit by the bar and talk to the bartender, tell them their problems. So I am the bartender, it's my bar. And you come and you sit there and we reason. And then we had some people off to the side playing domino. And when the argument sweet them come to the bar and buy out the argument. All right? A divorced middle-aged gentleman, an example in the book, he found his only brother during an incipient mental health crisis. And when asked to call back in a few hours because in watching a movie. When he called back, the call went to voicemail. You see, I say, folks, when a man reach out to you, it took him sometimes months to get the courage to do so. Mm-hmm. A father who was struggling with some issues that affect his ability at work and to provide for his family. When he tried to discuss this issue with his wife, she would scold him. Well, are you a husband? Are you a man? I remember a case some years ago, where a man came to see me. He had been made redundant, and he was, home for a couple of weeks and he was watching TV. And then during the break in the show, he went to the fridge to get a beer. And as he touched the fridge and opened it, the wife said to him, "Boss, how much beer you buy this week in this house?" And the man reflected that he has not bought anything in the house in a little while. He put back the beer in the fridge and wiped off the fridge like that's how he came, and he was still on the couch. And that night he slept on the couch because he didn't feel that he could be any other place in the house that night. Just what the wife said. Are you a man? A male student noted that he tried to talk about his mental health issue with various peers, but found that they quickly zoned him out and reached for their cell phone. Then he gained a reputation as a whiner and lost friends as a result of this. Huh? Research indicates that many men with mental health issues have tried to reach out and talk, but found people unresponsive or indifferent. So eventually, you just shut your mouth. You don't say nothing. You don't say nothing. It is suggested that workplace issues are the same. Instead of talking to people in their social network, men with mental health issues have the option to seek out, consult trained therapists and other mental health clinicians. However, there are many unacknowledged and oft ignored barriers because people may wonder if something wrong with them. What am I seek help for? I can count on one hand the number of men that have reached out to me through companies, even companies who have EAP program where people can get help. But the men don't ask for help because they're concerned that people are going to label them and say something wrong with them because we need to talk to psychologists for huh? Why? Men still remain the primary breadwinner in many families, so that they're working longer hours and striving to impress their employer to get the pay raise and the promotion and the job security. And as such, they're adverse to taking time off for work for health reasons and avoid the perception that they're unreliable. If an employee wishes to take time off to seek a mental health profession, some research indicate that certain employees equate mental illness with malingering, hypochondria, laziness. So to be on the safe side, you don't. Men with mental health issues are stereotyped as dangerous and unpredictable, a threat to the workplace morale, in especially a male-dominated workspace, like the police and the military and so on. So they just don't ask for help. And I would say, anyway, it maga, it pop. A recent survey showed that 1 in 4 workers believe that their job would be at risk if they talk about their mental health issues at work. 1 in 3 believe they would be overlooked for promotion if they mention a mental health problem. Just under half believe it will lead to negative comments from workplace colleagues. So you see the basis of our problem. The cost of this? For some men in mental distress, they have a legitimate fear that any disclosure of this will damage their employment status and even damage their relationships. Some men may even make a calculated cost-benefit analysis. You weigh up the socio-cultural, socio-economic, occupational things. I said, but better me not say nothing. Because any disclosure means that people going to think less of me. The process have been overlooking much of the popular discussion, just saying that men don't want to talk, men. But so many things discourage men from raising issues about mental related issues. Some men are fortunate to have a supportive family and friends. The sad reality, many men face indifference. In many social contexts, men learn that it is not really okay to talk about your mental health issues. Just don't do it. So we need to have some mental health literacy program in schools and workplace. We need occupational health reform so that these issues can come up. We need better provision and evidence-supported male sensitivity training. We need these things to happen for men. So what can we do? Let's start with some basic tips. Pay a little more attention to what's going on in your brain. Save yourself, gentlemen. You can take more control of your mental health and what you're feeling. Get open. You have to stop telling men to man up. Instead, open up. We are wired as men to put on a strong face and carry it on, don't say nothing. We need to start talking more openly about our feelings. And when we open up, we need to do so without any apologies. Open up to your friends and loved ones. We have to start. You remember when I said before that the most important decision, who you marry? Can you open up to your partner and really be vulnerable and share what you feel? Get control. We all beat ourselves sometimes. Oh, boy, I shouldn't this, no, I shouldn't. We worry about things as they might happen. These are all things that we can't control. Worry about the things that you can control. Your diet, your routine, your daily schedule. Worry about those things and you take control of them. Step 3, be thankful. When was the last time you took an inventory of the small wins you have in your life? Count your blessings. Regardless of what may be going on, what are all the good things that are going on in your life? Celebrate. Chapter 5. How about we take it beyond mental health now, just to life in general? How do we align our life? Realigning mind, body, and spirit. How do we do that? Just taking a little glance at the chat here and see if we're still on the target. All right. You can't pour from an empty bowl. You can't give what you don't have. So you have to strengthen what you have. You have to build up on you. Your brain is the hardware. Your mind is the software. Your life is the printout. You are the programmer. Take control of your life. Take responsibility. It is too late now to blame your absent father, to blame your domineering mother. That done happen already. But you can now take it from here and correct it. The 50 trillion cells in your body are constantly eavesdropping on your thoughts and their emotion. What are you telling the cells of your body? got this. I can do it. I can change. In the coronavirus, folks, hello, just in case you don't realize, COVID's still a keeper. We have made a big mistake in this mass open up. If the rate of opening the society is greater than the rate of vaccination, you stand the risk of losing all your gains. There's only one territory in the Caribbean worse than us, and that's Haiti, with over 22%. Pandemic fatigue is real. It leads to frustration. Frustration can trigger aggression, verbal and physical, but frustration can also be channeled into creativity if you want it to. Transform this time. We know the signs of pandemic fatigue. You're feeling stressed and you're not as diligent about wearing the mask. You're drinking too much, you're eating too much. You're less careful about your social distancing and you find it harder to focus. You get upset easily. You're feeling hopeless about the future. Par for the course. That's where we are now. You need to get help. Learn from your computer. When a computer starts to slow down, we don't have to keep pressing the mouse and pressing the keyboard. Sometimes we just turn it off and then turn it on back after a while. Have you tried turning off and turn on back? With almost everything will work better if you unplug it for a few minutes. It's a low-tech solution. Just unplug for a few minutes. I'm going to give you 11 steps to put on your mask first to save yourself. You go on the plane, stewardess said, in case of emergency, put on your mask first before you help anybody else. 11 steps to realign your mind, body, and spirit. Step 1, follow the science. Proverbs 10 verse 21 said, the lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for want of wisdom. Follow the science. Too many people get caught up in foolishness now. What refutes science? Better science. What doesn't refute science? Your feelings, your religion, your favorite politician, half-baked opinions after watching 2 YouTube videos. Follow the science. What's the science? 97% of COVID deaths are by unvaccinated people. That's the reality. With a recent survey done by the Capri, only 22% of Jamaicans are fully vaccinated, the lowest rate in the region, except for one place, Haiti. Haiti, that's what we're compared to. 80% of the unvaccinated lack trust in their government. 87% of the unvaccinated don't trust the vaccine. Who they trust? Family members and doctors and health workers. Yet still the government insists that they must be the voice of the vaccination program. Jamaicans don't trust government. 6% of those who have been vaccinated have completed a bachelor's degree. 33% who did not finish high school, 23%. So we've seen that vaccination is associated with more education. Vaccination associated with more higher income people, 50%. So we understand what is driving it and who are the people. Recommendations, create a message and information package to ease understanding. All right, follow the science, that's step 1. There are 12 cognitive biases that support vax hesitancy. Number 1 is conspiracy theory. We can discuss some of these in the discussion. But we now know of 18 methods we can use to override people, to help them to understand. We are in serious problem. And with the opening up now, folks, I expect to see going from bad to worse. Step 2, constantly and consciously monitor your emotions. Do you know that emotions are more contagious than any virus? Emotions are transmitted subliminal to everyone in proximity. Emotions. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? And negative emotions make you more susceptible to viral infections because negative emotion suppresses your immune system. So monitor how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Monitor your feelings. So yeah, make sure. Step 3, have a do nothing day. What do I mean by that? Some days you should do nothing. And when you finish, just relax. 7 days in the week, and you can't take one for yourself? You need that. African proverb says, even when you cry, you must occasionally stop and blow your nose. You need a little break. You need a full stop. Step 4, eat a healthy diet. Eat a healthy diet. You need to feed yourself proper fuel. Step 5, daily prayer and meditation. Integral part of your life. Prayer is you talking to God. Meditation is you listening to God. Some of you talk too much and listen too little. Isaiah 65:24, even before they call, I will answer. While they're still speaking, I will hear. So why you go and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk when God will get a chance to talk to you? God can hear you when you don't say anything at all because he knows your heart. God listens to your heart and not your lips. Why you chat so much? Listen in silence, because if your heart is full of other things, you can't hear the voice of God, said Mother Teresa. You need both prayer and meditation. How powerful is meditation, folks? Buddha was asked, what have you gained from meditation? He replied, nothing. However, let me tell you what I've lost. Anger, anxiety, depression, insecurity, fear of old age and death. Step number 6, get regular physical exercise. Regular physical exercise. The gym is an integral part of my life. Before the pandemic, during the pandemic, I built a gym at home. Do you know, folks, that you must stay active and maintain your fitness during COVID? Why? Exercise is the only way to keep your heart and lung fit. No drugs can do that for you. Exercise is therapy. A personal re-engagement where the mind and the body talk to one another. The mind and the body, constant conversation. Exercise elevates your mood and your energy and your concentration. Important ritual. Step 7, you need to create an energizing morning routine. My morning routine, on awakening, I make 1 cup of coffee. It's a ritual for me. I grind the beans and I brew 1 cup of coffee. Then I meditate. Then my workout. I wake between 3:30 and 5. That's when I get up. That's when the heavens open. And that stillness of the morning, you can communicate. Your morning routine should become a habit. What is your morning routine? What is your morning routine? Yes, Martin, we must spend time meditating on God's word. Very important. Very important. What's your morning routine? That's where it begins. And it must be constant. You must find a way to get it done. Again, the bookends of my day, it begins with coffee and ends with a glass of Merlot. What are yours? What sets your day? What allows you to? Step 8, you need a relaxing evening routine. Establish a routine to wind down. For me, it's a shower followed by meditation. Some people journal, write notes. It must be the same thing every night so your body knows now it's time to calm down. Turn off the news and turn on the music. We don't need the news, especially now. That's another form of depression. Stressful news can cause you to experience uncomfortable physical symptoms like fatigue and anxiety and depression and gut problems. We don't need it at this time of our life. We don't. Step number 9, work should work for you. For many people who have been working from home has become the new normal, but then a problem sets up. Beware, working from home could transform to living at work. You're getting work to do 24 hours a day with no breaks. Forget this thing called work-life balance. Huh? You are totally replaceable at work, but you're not replaceable at home. Home is your real life. Keep that perspective always. Never allow work from home to destroy your life at home. Life at home is your real life. Guess what, folks? If you can work from home, you can work from anywhere. Why not do that? Why not do that? You find a place that's comfortable once you have internet access. Work has now been transformed from a place to a state. The construct called office and workplace is now it's not a place anymore, it's a state. Being at work is a state of being. You can be sitting on the beach and you're still at work. Have you evolved to that state? Step number 10, and gentlemen, here is where the problem kicks in for us. Ask for help and be willing enough to give help. Be smart enough to know when you need help, but be brave enough to ask for it. Join a group of like-minded people. You may even benefit from a mentor or a coach, somebody to check up on you. Especially coming out of this meeting this evening, you touch base with somebody else. You reach out to somebody who can help. You offer help. Reach out for support. Talk to your family. Talk to a friend. Talk about how you're feeling. Talk about what you're thinking. Reach out. Help is available. If you are struggling with mental health issue, with stress issue, with addiction, with suicide ideation, help is available. Reach out. Don't let social distancing become social isolation. The same tools we're using now, Zoom, to work, you can use it to keep family meetings, to link up with your friends once a week. Reach out. Help somebody today. Winston Churchill says, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. St. Francis of Assisi says, for it is in giving that we receive. Help somebody. The nature of the universe is to give. When we are in harmony with the laws of the universe, we cannot stop ourselves from giving. Give. Do you understand, folks, that you came into the world with nothing and you're going to leave it with nothing? So your best bet is whatever you have, give it away. And the more you give is the more you will get. We are here to serve and save each other. Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpeneth iron, so a man's countenance of his friend. Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. Help somebody today. How can you say you love God and you don't love your brother? You love that which you have never seen, but you don't love that which you have seen? Reach out and help somebody today. Every one of you. That's what we need to do. Live for a higher purpose, not just the highest bidder. What's the purpose of your life? And step 11, celebrate. Track your success each week, even the smallest one. I keep a list of my little achievements on a daily basis. I count my blessings. And I celebrate at the end of the week. About a year ago, I started something called Fine Dining Friday. It sounds auspicious, don't it? But what is it? Every one of us have some dishes at home that we put on. Every one of us have something we call good clothes. And especially during the pandemic, the clothes are asked if you're dead. That's so long you don't wear them. So what we do every Friday, we have a fine dining meal. We take out the best dishes. If it's even like a steamed rice and butter, it don't matter what. And I get a glass of wine, a bottle of wine. And my wife and myself, we dress up. We put on our best clothes. Every Friday, my only choice is, no, which suit I'm gonna wear this Friday, like we're going out. So we have no need now with the place open up to decide where we're gonna go. We go out every Friday, right in our own yard. Fine dining Friday, and we celebrate the week. We live through one more week. So we say, to realign your mind, body, and spirit, follow the science, monitor your emotional ecosystem, have a do-nothing day, eat a healthy diet, daily prayer and meditation, regular physical exercise, have an energizing morning routine and a relaxing evening routine. Make sure work works for you. Ask for help, but more importantly, give help and celebrate. Amen. Amen. Here ended the lesson. We can save ourselves. We can save our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Semaj, for such a brilliant presentation. I mean, you have opened our eyes to a lot of different things. I mean, things that we never looked at it that way. And these 11 steps is something I know a lot of the men will be looking forward to doing, because what you have done is actually give us 11 steps to actually make our lives better as men. There are a number of questions that have popped up in the chat. I'm going to try and scroll through just to some of them. There's one that I actually was discussing with a church brother on over the weekend, and he was saying we were discussing preparing for this presentation, and he was saying that if you look, there's a higher ratio of madmen on the streets more than women. I don't know if statistics will say that is so.
Yeah, but let me comment on that. Let me comment on that. There is truth to that, and more mad people are attracted to urban centers because there's more for them to get help. But guess what? We take care of the mad women in our families. We take care of the women in our families who are mentally disturbed, but whereas the men end up on the streets. And also, a lot of men, when they were young and strong and healthy, they made no investments. So when they have the decline and so on, there's nobody for them to rally back on, even the children that they neglected. But even families tend to take care of women because you don't want her to end up on the street. But the men, that's likely. And I hope lots of men, one of my biggest, well, let's call it fear, but it's really a conceptual fear, is to end up alone. But guess what? I make sure I do my investment. When I talk about investment, my social capital investment, my investment in my children, my investment in my wife, my investment in people I help, so that it is in giving that you will get. I see a hand. Is that Ernest, Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ernest. Unmute.
Yes, good evening all. I think it's an excellent presentation. We can conclude that men in the church are experiencing mental health also. apart from this forum, what else can the church do to help us as men in the church in this regard?
Well, listen, it'll be a natural continuation coming out of this. If you don't have a group that is just built around us, where a context where you can come and just talk about your concern, talk about what your challenge is in a non-judgmental way, where iron can sharpen iron. Just coming out of a group like this, where men can reach out, and guess what? You can do so face-to-face now, but you can do so as a WhatsApp group. You can do so on Zoom, whatever it is, but we must find a way to reach out. I have a group of brethren that I literally, at least every morning, somebody posts something in the chat, an idea, something they read about, something they share an idea. Somebody have a question but we have the technology now to make it easier. WhatsApp, Zoom, telephone, and then coming out of this. I'm sure many people who coming into this, you came into this with a heavy heart. You came into this with some concerns in your mind and so on. But even you can find at least one person you can share with, you can open up with.
Another question in the chat. How do we help our young men to grow into emotionally healthy men?
And that is the biggest. In the absence of active fathering, you realize now what has happened. Social media has become the socializing agent. The dancehall artist has become the person who is now guiding their life. I made it clear to my children when they're younger, I am the program director of my home. I determine what music play in my house. I am the program director. I determine what is on the television station here. There are many fathers who do not act as the program directors. But yes, when the child go out, the child will disobey. That's okay. But the child knows my father said that can't happen. I was somewhere recently doing a presentation. A young man said that he knew me from a long time because he grew up with one of my eldest son, and he would come to my house to play basketball. And he remembered the rules. I had a basketball hoop in my driveway, and I tell my son, bring all your friends right here so they can make all the noise right here. So 2 rules, no fighting and no cursing, right? So I provide the facility so that your children must feel comfortable with you. And that's how you start. You take part in your children's life, because if you don't take part in their life, they won't take part in your life. So you was in a position that you can understand. I remember, again, going back to when my children were young, we're going to Montego Bay, and I told my son, all right, tell you, back in the days of iPod, could you put your iPod in the docking station? Let's hear some of your music. But Daddy, my music can't play. Hold on, no, hold on. I want to hear your music. And when he put down the iPod and I listened, I cringed when I hear what he was listening to. But guess what? We're in a car. We're not going anywhere for a while. We can now talk. The first thing I said to my son was, that I counted 827 years hard labor prison. The behaviors I heard describing that music. No, how many other children were listening to that kind of music, but nobody was telling them that music will get you to prison. So you start by actively being involved in your children's life. Involve them in your life. Listen to what they have to say. Be there for them. You let them inconvenience you, because we have to start that way. And that's why I said earlier, the problem begins with the absence of parenting. Take an active interest in your child's life and insist that they be a part of your life too.
Another question. Would you advise that men make known their mental problems at their workplaces today? Isn't the risk very high?
I'm not going to be an idiot. That is the reality that we live with now. But guess what? HR managers are not supposed to be gossip agents. Many HR departments have also an EAP program, employee assistance program, whereby you are able now to provide help in a manner that you don't expose the person to ridicule or any such thing. But you have to carefully choose it. The workplace would be the second option for me, because not every workplace is evolved. Because what will start happening if the person you confide in at work turns out to be a rumor mongerer? You could become ridiculed. So I'd rather you start closer to home. Clearly, if you're a member of a church, it's a good place to start. The next option is that you have a close friend, a close relative. I remember a cousin of mine coming to me, and said that she left me to talk with her husband because it's like them living like them as, roommate. Him not come home till 11 o'clock at night. This was before COVID and all of that. And weekends, him gone the whole weekend and so on. And I spoke with him and I asked him to and I addressed it, and he didn't realize that what he was doing. He didn't understand how it was going. And I played a song for him by Luther Vandross, By Her a Rose, and it made the point. So sometimes just by you confiding in a friend who can now speak on your behalf, that can help. The workplace should be a place that can help. What I advise workplace to do to save men's life, first of all, insist that every man gets a full health check on the anniversary of his work appointment. Because lots of men have the health card and don't use it. No, mama, just drink 2 juice and 2 push-up, mama. Good. But you insist that he gets that checkup once a year. And introduce a wellness program into the workplace so that issues about mental health and so on can be discussed in a non-pejorative manner. So I'm trying to get the workplace to also reach out to make it easier for men and women in order to do so. Right?
Another question in the chat. How do we differentiate between a man who may be classified a complainer versus a man who may really be experiencing mental health pressures?
Guess what? You are not at liberty to make that distinction. I first advise people, once somebody reach out to you, the best thing you can do is listen. And if you feel uncomfortable that you're not in a position to help, make a referral or suggest that he goes elsewhere. Because guess what? If the person that complaining, but that's an issue that he has to deal with. But you'd really, at this stage of our development, men have a way, people have a funny way of reaching out sometimes, They don't reach out straight and direct sometimes. But then you have to figure it out. You have to help them. But if the person is complaining, but even bring it to their attention, boss, it's the same you tell me every week. But what are you going to do about it? Don't just complain to me about it. We're going to do something about it. And if the person can't, but listen, you need help. Encourage them to seek help. Encourage them to do so. I see a note in the chat here. Garfield Hogarth, I worked at UWI branch during the late 80s. I recall you and me discussing your night doctor program the following morning. Lovely presentation that you did. Trust you're well. Yes, my brother, I'm alive and well. Yes. Yeah, but we have to, we're there for each other. We are the next link. Girls were socialized early to talk, to share information, to seek help. We were socialized to bottle it up and just tough it out and so on and don't say nothing. So when, pressure bust pipe.
There's a hand from Patrick Barrett. You may go ahead, Patrick. Unmute yourself, Patrick. Go ahead, Patrick.
Not hearing you, Patrick. No, I think you're having an audio problem. Maybe you need to just make your comment in the chat. You're having an audio problem. It's not coming across.
Not hearing you, Patrick.
Put it in the chat, Traffic. Not hearing you at all. It's distorted completely. Put it in the chat.
All right, another question. Someone wrote, I spoke about stress and was sent to a psychiatrist.
Are you hearing me?
A little better now. I heard how you hear me. So try again.
Go ahead, Patrick. Not hearing him.
No, put in the chat, please.
It's in the chat, Patrick. Try the chat.
Are you hearing me?
All right, somebody wrote, I spoke about stress and was sent to a psychiatrist by my vindictive supervisor in attempt to destroy my reputation and career prospects. So speaking about your mental health.
Yeah, I alluded to that. Let's not be naive. People still use that as a weapon. So that's why I try my best where I can make intervention from the side of the companies for them to really make a difference, for them to start providing opportunities inside. So persons are really afraid to open up because of the fear that somebody may use it against them. So yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. But you can find, is there someone you can trust? Because sometimes, I say to managers, as I mentioned in the presentation, if there's a man especially said, boss, I can ask you something, I can share something with you, realize that, listen, it could be a life you're saving. So yes, that still is a problem. We don't have the opportunities and the context for men to be able to make those kinds of reaching out and dealing with what they need to say.
Dr. Semaj, as an organization, the Life Builders Ministry, men's ministry, do you have any suggestions as how maybe we can help to bridge the gap with mentoring some of our men and helping them with the health issues, as well as some of the boys, not just in the church community, but also in the general community that we operate in?
The context of, once you can get men to talk, once you can get men to start talking, you can start helping. One thing that I personally do, in any capacity I am, anywhere I am, and I hear men talking, and especially younger men, and I hear what you call arms house argument, I buy out the argument. Because you hear somebody saying something very foolish, hear somebody making some claim or oftentimes they don't have nobody in their life who can make an intervention and say, no, it can't go, so you can't do that. You will go to jail for that. So that if you can create context where men can talk and you establish the ground rules. So we have this session every Wednesday, let me give you a practical example of what I did. Folks, the Night Doctor show started out on my sound system in my driveway. I used to keep a dance in my driveway every Friday night. And guess what? I followed a lot of people, they don't follow Jesus. I don't know what they're doing, but I follow Jesus as such. That Jesus says, I came not for the righteous, but what? Sinners to repent. And he got all kind of argument because the kind of place he used to go. So what I did, I built a sound system. And my sound system only played positive music. but we could juggle with the best. And every Friday night, we had a dance built around one positive theme. Let's say the theme was in praise of Black women. And every song we played was in praise of Black women. And then at 12 o'clock, between 12 and 1, we turned off the music and talk about the topic. Talk. There were people who came to dance for the talk. And we said, but Doc, this sounds nicer than radio, you know. And that's what gave me the idea to know, why not go to a radio station with the idea to have a program where you can use music and talk to heal people. So once you have a context where men can talk and they will not be judged, they will be able, and you need to have at least one person there in the conversation who has some training, whether in psychology or in social work, somebody who is empathic and a good listener, who is able to identify symptoms and so on, who can, if necessary, make a referral. But once you get people talking, you are able to help them. And it can be we just call it to come and have a conversation. So whether on a Wednesday night at this time, and persons will just start to self-select. And the ground rules is that anything discussed in this meeting, in this group, cannot be discussed outside of it. People should feel free to be able, and you establish the ground rules, and at least one person come with prepared to share some new insight, to share something that you have read, something that you have learned, some victory you have had, and so on. Iron sharpeneth iron. So a context where men can just start by talking about what their fears, what their concerns, what's working in their life, what's not working, because we don't have much of that going.
One more question, Doc. What are some of the signs of mental health to look out for in men who are afraid to open up and confide in others?
We mentioned them. Oh, and by the way, what I love about what you have done with this program here, we have had it. It's been streamed live on YouTube. That means that other persons can, because I'm actually streaming it on my website, on my Facebook page now, directly. And so persons who have heard about it now can go there to the site and look at it and go over it and so on. So you're actually doing a service to the nation. One of the most important things, folks, is it's not what just a man is doing, what he's not doing. So take, for example, you start seeing a man not taking care of himself. The way he dressed. This man used to be clean shaved and so on. All of a sudden, they see him straggly beard and so on, and the shirt don't wash, and the shirt not clean, and just he's unkempt. That is a clear giveaway that something is not right. You start seeing a person who the things that he used to enjoy. I mean, him used to loving football, man. Him used to come and match them, and him used to. All of a sudden, he has no interest in those things anymore. He's every time he's locked up at home and just by himself, and he's avoiding people and so on. Once you start to see any variation from the behavior that you used to see, it's time to start asking questions and being there for him. If he won't open up and you realize it's more than that, then you may need to really make a referral. And I usually start with somebody close to him. Start with his pastor. Start with his brother, his friend, and so on. Somebody who may not have noticed it, but you can. But once you start seeing a deterioration in the social person that you used to see, don't just leave it alone. Ask questions.
Okay, we have a hand raised. Joseph, Cade, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much, sir. Doc, continue to commend the nature of the presentation, but a quick question. Well, you alluded somewhat to it just now, but a little further. The JCF has a policy that relates to early warning signs. Anything that appears to deviate from the norm then officers and sub-officers are required to intervene in a specific way. Now, there are persons who are averse to even relating. How can one impose on such a person to at least having the person ventilate so that the different remedial strategies can be looked at?
Well, one of the things in psychology, you know, that we learn this thing called self-disclosure. When you're talking to somebody and you tell them about yourself, you're seeing some symptoms and you're seeing them and say, well, you see what I'm seeing? I used to have that too, you know. I used to feel the same way when I was younger or when I used to do so and so. And by you sharing your things with them, then they realize that, oh, you know, I was born big. You too had moments of weakness. You too had problems. So in self-disclosure, you let the person realize that, look, I can help you. What you're going through is not unique to you. It is something that we all have to struggle with. So that's really the best you can do, you know, and you describe, and then you keep coming back. Then you leave a number with them. They don't know, when you feel like talking, give me a shout. Sometimes you don't pressure them. Just let them know that you're there for them. Share your problems and your victories, how you overcame, and you just keep checking back with them from time to time. You don't want to win all of them. You don't want to win every time, but it's a place to start.
Are there any more questions from persons who are online?
I see this comment, Doc, there's a lot of persons who don't show signs in their hygiene care. Should we be listening more to the other nonverbal? Absolutely. Anything that deviates from the normal. Look, if the person has it totally covered up, then no, there's nothing you can do. That's one of the reasons why, as psychologists, in order for me to do a diagnosis, I usually do a battery of assessment, because persons can easily cover up things and so on, but that's at a deeper level. I'm just talking about what we can do with each other. You see things not looking right. You see changes, and especially when people now leave undone the things that they used to do, or they are now neglecting things that they used to find attractive, attentive, pleasurable. They don't want to do any of those things anymore. There's reasons for concern. But that's really your best bet. You are seeing a difference, and it's usually a negative difference. Something has changed in the person's behavior in terms of how they used to present themselves, whether physically or verbally. Then at least you intervene. Ask questions and let them know you're there for them. That's the best you can do sometimes.
Any more questions?
It's a pity that men were not educated on this when we were small. Guess what, folks? It's never too late. It's never too late. Can you give advice on severe anxiety headache that cause a person to panic? Again, there are all kinds of things that can trigger. Once you have physical symptoms first, once you have physical, again, we call it anxiety headache. We're not so sure whether it's related to anxiety or it's related to physical symptoms. Panic disorder, anxiety disorder. Again, these things are treatable. Once you have to reach somebody, a doctor, a psychologist, a counselor, somebody can help you to diagnose, identify the causes, identify the triggers, identify what is causing this. So then you are now able to treat it. And sometimes you can't self-diagnose, you can't self-treat. Sometimes you have to talk to the professional, somebody who can help you with it. Panic attack, anxiety attack, these are things that incapacitate people.
Okay. Well, I must thank you very much, Dr. Semaj, for this excellent presentation. I mean, I'm going to go on the Facebook channel because I want to look back through. I mean, I made notes. I actually made 6 pages of notes, but I want to actually get a good feedback to see what I missed. But there's a lot of great information that you have given to us. And I must thank you again. I'm going to hand over now to Pastor Martin, who will close us off. Have a good evening.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, Brother Michael, for leading us in such an able way. And I want to thank Dr. Semaj for his presentation this evening. A wonderful presentation. Doc, I know one of the question that also came on YouTube is how can persons get your presentation? I think they want the physical copy versus just watching it on YouTube. I think some very insightful information was shared this evening, and I believe, especially for those of us who are leaders within the men's ministry, we have a lot to reflect on as we seek to engage within our local context, and as we engage our men. There's a lot we have to think about. These statistics that were shared this evening, for me, is riveting, and it challenges me as a leader within the ministry to begin to really look at how we package ourselves and engage our men in a holistic manner. I think all of us as leaders and pastors who are online should be really looking in that direction of really helping to rescue our men, because the man seems very much under serious attack, and whatever we can do to help, that is what we want to do. Earlier question was asked about continuation, how can this go on? And I want to say to us, especially to the leaders of the various local life builder groups and to pastors who may be online, that within the context of your monthly, weekly life builder meetings, that you're able to create an environment where men can come and sit down and share. It is critical that we make our meetings in such a way where a man is able to open up and to share, so that we're able to offer help to one another. It is not just for us to get together and sing songs. It is for us as men to really engage the issues that are affecting us as men, and seeking ways within which we can help each other to overcome these challenges and to be the kind of man that God intends for us to be in the earth, and to help impact our society and bring about transformation and change, not just to the society at large, but within our own families, changing the trajectory that our families may have been on, and ensuring that we're living holistic lives that can impact change. So thank you again, my brothers, for being with us. As we close, I want to remind us as well that come Friday evening, we will have Professor Leahcim coming to speak with us. We're going to be looking at men and erectile dysfunction. It is critical for us to come out and to engage in that discussion. I'm inviting all the men, all the ladies that want to be a part of that session as well. Come out and be a part of that session. If it affects your man, it will also affect you. And so I want for us to come together for that discussion on Friday evening with Professor Leahcim. And then Saturday, please remember, Saturday we head off to Hood Harbor for our domino competition. We still have some more teams that we want to register. We want 30, and I don't think we're at the 30 just yet. Today is the deadline for registration. It is important for us, my brothers, that we register our teams for Saturday. Speak to your respective regional director so that the information can can get to us, so we're able to register you. We start on Saturday morning in Huldaber at 10 a.m. with registration. So all our brothers will be competing, and those persons who want to travel along with your team, please note we need to be in Huldaber for 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, and we are going to have a wonderful time just relaxing together and playing some domino. And I look forward in seeing all of you at the tournament, for those who will be there. Thank you so much, my brothers and my sisters. And once again, thank you, Dr. Semaj, for a wonderful evening. We really appreciate you. I especially appreciate you, for you are a man from the right side of North Street. God bless you, everyone. Blessings. Have a good night, everyone.
Blessings.
Some music content.